Hello, everyone, and welcome to Building a Case for Change. My name is Lisa Rowe, and I have the honor and privilege of serving as the CEO for Support After Abortion. You might catch those four letters after my name and think this might be a clinical conversation, and I want to just let you know that we're going to talk a little bit different today, maybe have a different conversation than you've ever heard from a clinician before. In 2018, I entered into the pro-life movement as an executive director of a local pregnancy here in Southwest Florida. And it was my first time really experiencing the pro-life movement. And since then, God has just had me on this amazing journey. And so I am going to be sharing some insights, some perspectives, and some of the things that we've personally experienced at Support After Abortion as it pertains to the men and women that we have served and continue to serve who've been impacted by abortion. So you might be taken aback by this picture that I have here on the slide. Unfortunately, this is a picture that was taken only 3 years ago. And we're going to be talking about how messages like this in the pro-life movement actually really counteract everything we're trying to do by helping to save lives and help moms and help dads. So let me share with you a little bit about what we are doing at Support After Abortion. We believe that at Support After Abortion, to end the demand for abortion, we must help those who need healing. And we know that we have to be a catalyst for change because that hasn't been at everybody's forefront. When I was at the pregnancy center, it was down on the list of things that we offered. When I was a therapist inside an anti-sex trafficking organization, we very rarely talked about abortion. And this is not uncommon for licensed clinicians and others. Abortion is taboo. Abortion has stigma. Abortion is polarized because of the political and cultural dynamics around it. So we believe at Support After Abortion, in order to become a catalyst for change in the abortion healing movement, we must inspire compassion among you and others like you. We need to promote collaboration across the leadership board with abortion healing, and we need to build capacity so we can continue to serve the millions of men and women who are impacted by abortion. Today, and for the purpose of this conference, I'm going to talk to you specifically about what it means to inspire compassion inside the pro-life movement. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about abortion and personify abortion for you. We did an ad maybe a couple months ago, and it really took off. And so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about these two pictures. So statistically, 1 in 4 women before their 45th birthday will have an abortion. And in our world at Support After Abortion, we know that a woman doesn't get up on her 21st birthday and say, I'm going to have an abortion today, or dream of the day that she's going to have an abortion. And when I see this picture of these 5, maybe 8-year-old girls, I think about my daughters. I have 3 daughters, 1 away from the statistic. And based on these statistics, that means one of those girls could be my daughter. One of those girls could be your daughter. One of those girls could be your sister, your aunt, your mother. I think it's really important that we understand the human behind the abortion experience. She does not wake up wanting to have an abortion. And we're going to talk a little bit about what we've learned as a result. So we know that those 1 in 4 women who have an abortion, 50% of them will have another abortion. That is significant as we look at the amount of abortions that have happened in our country and abroad. You think of the 61 million abortions that we've talked about, maybe 50% of them could be repeat abortions. And so if we think about truly ending the demand for abortion, I want you to allow these statistics to resonate. How do we access that woman before she has a second abortion? So we know that with the 50th anniversary of Roe versus Wade just a few years away, there's been almost 50 years of legalized abortion in our country, which means there's been 4 generations impacted by abortion. To create some perspective, that means great grandma, grandma, mom, and great granddaughter could potentially be still living and walking on this earth in our communities, in our businesses, in our families. And each one of those generations has been touched by abortion. What does that do for our country? What does that do for the world? It's significant. And let me explain to you why. We have learned that abortion is a generational behavior, much like poverty and suicide and divorce, mental illness, substance abuse. And when we experience abortion in these generations, we repeat what is known to us. We repeat trauma because we don't understand that it's not normal or it's unhealthy. So it's often that we repeat what is familiar. A mom encourages her daughter to have an abortion because she had an abortion. Or it's known throughout the family line that if you ever get pregnant unexpectedly, you are going to have an abortion. Or maybe it's a young woman who growing up sees her mom in really tumultuous relationships, coercive relationships. And so she then repeats those patterns in her young adult life and finds herself in unhealthy relationships where she is coerced to have an abortion. Sometimes we repeat those traumatizing experiences because we think we can get control of it. So we enter into relationship with people who have substance abuse issues. We enter into dangerous situations. We feel like we don't have a voice, and so we carry that forward. And at the premise of every woman and every man that I've ever spoken to that's experienced abortion, they experienced at a very young age a lack of identity, value, and purpose. So if you carry that forward as you begin to experience the trials and tribulations of our lives, it's hard to make healthy choices, to make very distinctive choices in the midst of all the fog. When you lack an identity of yourself, you don't understand your purpose, and you certainly don't understand that you have value. Great quote here from C.S. Lewis. Mental pain is less dramatic than physical pain, right? You can see somebody who uses a wheelchair. You can see somebody who struggles to walk or talk, but it's more common and also more hard to bear. So mental pain, although we can't see it, sometimes we don't see the mental pain that a woman is carrying walking inside to the abortion clinic or walking outside of the abortion clinic. I promise you, based on our experiences, she is experiencing mental pain, and we can't see it all the time. And sometimes it even comes out in her words or her affirmation in her decision. But there's still a great weight that is connected to her abortion experience or his abortion experience. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what we've experienced at Support After Abortion in terms of this compassion and condemnation message. And I want to bring your attention to these two pictures. And I want to challenge you. Maybe you are somebody that shows up with compassion, and thank God for you. Maybe you're somebody who didn't realize that your message has been condemning, or you know somebody whose message has been condemning and have had a difficult time approaching them. We really hope this training goes into perpetuity and that we are helping to really shift the hearts and minds of the pro-life movement. Because as we learned from Jonah Berger earlier, if we don't start growing the influence with common ground, we are going to really struggle to make an impact. So I want to start with the bottom picture. And I want you to draw your attention to the right-hand corner, the upper right-hand corner of the woman. Here she is in the midst of some kind of march or some kind of outreach. Maybe she's praying or maybe she's crying. And there is a sign up above that says, "Face it, abortion kills a person." Now, what if that woman is the 1 in 4 women who experience abortion? And she's never told anybody because this kind of messaging has always been around her. How do you think she would take that sign? What is that sign indicating to her? You could say it's helping her understand what she did. You could say it's convicting her to get healing. But it's my experience in talking to the men and women at Support After Abortion, friends of mine, close family members, that it's these kind of messages that push men and women into further silence because they sound condemning. And for somebody who's already condemning themselves, it further perpetuates their experience. Now, let me draw you to the picture on the top. This is a great 40 Days for Life sign, and it actually exemplifies what we learned from Jonah Berger. We want to ask questions, right? We are here to help. How can we help? And it's not threatening. It's not condemning. It's compassionate. It's not threatening. The gentleman's praying. And it meets people in a way that they can feel as though that you are approachable. And maybe that woman still walks inside of that abortion clinic, but she knows now that there's somebody that's on the sidewalk, much like Abby Johnson's experience, that she can. How many times was Abby Johnson encountered by 40 Days for Life before she actually took their help? But when she did take their help, look what happened. And it's because they continued to show up with love and mercy and grace. And she was able to find hope and healing and be rescued from Planned Parenthood. So I hope that we begin to really start to evaluate our messages. We start to evaluate how the pro-life movement is showing up. Going back to, we have 50 years of legalized abortion, 4 generations. That means there are more people walking this earth right now who have been impacted by abortion that there are that are having abortions every year. If we are going to make a change, we need to enter into the hearts and minds of those that have the influence inside of their family, and it starts with a message of compassion. This picture was taken in 2017 in Ohio. I want to draw your attention to some of the facets here. If you were a woman that was leaving the abortion clinic, or a man who drove her wife, her partner, his partner to the clinic, what might these signs indicate to them? Stop killing. Abortion is murder. Repent, sinner. Oh, and don't forget, on the back of that gentleman's shirt, it says, I vote pro-life. Well, is this indicating that the pro-life movement cares? Is this indicating to the person who might have just experienced abortion, or who is walking in that may still be on the fence, that you're approachable? Or how about some of these messages that we received in response to several of our social media campaigns? So we have an amazing program coordinator, Carolyn Franson. She's in her early 30s, beautiful blonde. She's shared at both of our previous conferences, and Live Action actually picked up her presentation and posted it to their Facebook page. There was 9 minutes. I videotaped the whole thing, recorded it, 9 minutes of lots of comments. About 60% of the comments were people sharing their love and mercy, grace, and forgiveness messages. But another 40% were sharing these messages on the left, and I want to read them out loud. This gentleman said, hell no, they kill their babies because they are not responsible when they spread their legs. They know if the father won't support the child, that they can just go on welfare and let us taxpayers cover the cost. When Carolyn read these messages, she actually had to stop because she was so just infuriated with some of these comments. There was a part of her that wished she never shared her story. And can I tell you that her story has had tons of impact? But we have people inside of our movement that are taking her story and turning it into their own narrative. And here's another comment. Why not stop making excuses for poor judgment? Her choice in men seems to be lacking. Her choice for abortion was hers. Granted, she was brainwashed by the liberals wanting to limit the underclass part of the population, but it was her free choice to murder a child. If she has a problem with it, she should learn to live with it. Hope she will discontinue aborting children, but it's all on her. So I'm going to challenge you. That kind of a comment, and I wish it was only one, but like I said, about 40% of the comments had some similar thread to this. She deserves the pain. She's a murderer. She doesn't deserve help. She has 3 living children, and she is now fighting for life by helping people heal from abortion. How would a message like this help her get there? In fact, the message that helped her get to the place that she was actually one at my dining room table that encouraged her to go to an abortion healing program. And through that abortion healing program and a series of others, she found her purpose inside of our movement. And there are leaders inside of our movement that say, second to an ultrasound is a woman's testimony and experience after abortion as an influence agent. And you heard that from Alan Parker this morning. He said the very same thing, that in order to overturn Roe versus Wade, we need more men and women coming forward regarding their pain after abortion. These kind of statements are coming from a place of anger, maybe their own experiences, maybe because it is such a politically driven position. They're coming from a lot of different places. But we have got to get in there as a pro-life movement who understands that it really is going to take us developing a compassionate place in our movement to change these folks who don't understand what they're saying. You know, a prolific pro-life leader just a couple days ago posted on Facebook, "Real men defend life." And to most of you, what is that? That's great. I've seen that all over. But what do you think the man who did encourage abortion feels about a statement like that? Even the man that has been healed, even Carolyn, who's been healed, takes these statements and it is painful. But what if you're not healed and you read that? Do you think that there's hope for you? From my experience, there's not. The comments on the right are from our very first conference that we launched last July. We had posted a picture of 4 women and we were challenging people with the idea that 1 in 4 would have an abortion by the age of 45. And these were the comments from other fellow pro-lifers that we had to delete from our platform. We just use murder as a form of birth control. Let's hug it out. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil. Do you think, based on what I explained before about abortion being a generational pattern of behavior, that we repeat the trauma of those who went before, that women walk inside of the abortion clinic and go, I am convicted that what I am doing is 100% evil? They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about what is right in front of them. And that's the relationship that's dissolving. That's whatever kinds of circumstances are around them. It's the stress of the situation. It's the lack of coping mechanisms that they have to deal with their vulnerable situation. In that moment, most are not thinking about the good and the evil or murdering their child. They're thinking about themselves. So let's talk a little bit about how this changes. Let's talk about what we can do as a pro-life movement, as an abortion healing movement, to shift the culture, to get in front of these millions of men and women who are hurting after abortion. Jonah said it earlier this morning. We have to mitigate the barriers if we want to be a catalyst for change. And where does that start? It starts with our own awareness. If we don't know where we are, we can't make a plan for the future. And ironically, the same process goes for the man or woman who's experienced abortion. If they don't know where they are, how do they make a roadmap for their experiences? So if they don't know where you are, because the sign is not allowing them to feel like they can connect with you or your messaging or your silence, they're not going to know what to do. So let's think about the level of awareness that we must have in how we are approaching our family members, our community leaders, our businesses. with the same kind of respect that we need to have for those who are experiencing their own grief and loss, the shame and guilt after abortion. And after we develop a level of awareness ourselves, and those who've experienced abortion do as well, we can move into a place of acceptance, which allows us to see that there's hope. And that's our message at Support After Abortion. There is hope. You are not alone. It gives us more visibility. What if the messaging of hope and compassion actually brings us closer to what we've been trying to do for the last 50 years? And guess what? It gives us a fresh perspective. And finally, change is possible because we all take action. We take action and we can change an entire system and bring healing to an entire system. What if those men and women who Alan was talking about before come forward and the Supreme Court has 30 million testimonies to show that abortion is an egregious crime against humanity? It's undeniable, but those people need healing and they need to know where to go. And we are the conduits. However, right now, only 10% of people know where to go for help. You might say, how is that? We've been fighting for 50 years. Well, I hope this presentation spoke for itself. And I also hope that you hear that we have to meet people where they are with an options-based approach, creating that common ground, like Jonah said. Tying in the consumer research that Janine, our founder, spoke about earlier today. There are millions of men and women hurting after abortion that don't know where to go for help and healing. It's time that we change that. Because at Support After Abortion, we believe with the millions of men and women and the almost 50 years of legalized abortion, that if we are truly going to end the demand for abortion, we have got to be inclusive of the men and women who need support afterwards. So for those of you who do stand on the sidewalk, for those of you who are sharing your stories, for those of you who are in different influential realms, I would encourage you to evaluate your message. Is it bringing about a healing message as well as saving lives? When you review those messages, real men defend life, are you considering the man and woman who's experienced abortion and how that might affect them? Is it drawing them in or is it pushing them away? I'm really grateful that I got to share this message with you today. We are doing some amazing things at Support After Abortion to continue to bridge this gap. I'd love to share all of them with you, but they are on our website at supportafterabortion.com. And we are excited to continue to partner with you, train you, provide resources, and so much more. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm really excited about the future. I'm really excited about all the expert speakers that chose to join us today and tomorrow. They really do believe in what we're doing. And most of them have been in the movement for a long time and are anxious to see change, much like you. So we really hope and pray that this message can get far and wide and that you will have the opportunity to share it with those that you love, care about, and serve. Thank you so much. And now I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I am happy to take any questions that you might have. All right. So on the bottom of your screen, you have a Q&A feature. You guys might have been using it up until this point. I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have. Janine has spurred me on to talk about roots. So we have created a curriculum called Unraveled Roots, and that curriculum is based out of our experience inside the pregnancy center. I had experienced 3 women who I had served in a previous role, and all of them had experienced 3 more pregnancies after I had served them. And I was really challenged by the repeat behaviors that they had experienced. But more than that is the increased dysfunction that they had experienced. And so we created this curriculum called Unraveled Roots, and it was based on all of the knowledge that those who have been impacted by abortion and unexpected pregnancy and other vulnerabilities. And we see some real common threads: sexual abuse as a root to a lot of abortion experiences, lack of attachment to a quality caregiver growing up, tons of trauma rooted, and like we talked about, it's a family behavior. It's groomed inside of the family often, and there's again, no woman walks into an abortion clinic and said, I woke up thinking I was going to do this today. She has lots of unhealthy things that led to that. Martha's asking, where is the plans for all of the things that Support After Abortion is doing? If you go to our website, supportafterabortion.com, we have webinars and blogs and podcasts. We've really come a long way in the last year, listening to you and all the things that you needed. You're also going to see great presentations tomorrow and the rest of today that will continue to resource you in all that you're doing in the pro-life movement. Any other questions? I'm curious about the process. So let's see. Martha, thank you. I want to share my testimony. Glad. I'm curious about the process and when someone who has had an abortion reaches out to Support After Abortion. That's a great question, Catherine. So because we believe in an options-based approach and we really rely heavily on the data that we've gleaned from the consumer research, we remain an anonymous support until a man or a woman is wanting to reveal themselves. And so they can contact us on our 800 number by text message or phone call. They can also reach out to us on our website through Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp. And we remain very compassionate as they reach out, and we remain person-centered. And so what does that mean? Well, we follow them through their process. So much of the time in the abortion healing industry, we've provided them with the program that we had in our centers or that we had access to. And what we're doing at Support After Abortion is actually allowing the client to lead their experience, giving them options, like Jonah Berger said earlier. And so what we do is we listen to them, we do a very thorough intake, and then we provide them with experience. The experienced counselors that we have provide them with the resources that we have connected with and vetted, and then they choose. Do they want a therapist? Do they want an in-person Bible study in their community? Do they want a non-faith forward approach? And we provide those options to them, virtual, in person, and that's what has helped us go from serving 12 clients in 2017 to almost 1,700 clients in 2020. Let's see, will we be able to watch tomorrow's at a later date? Absolutely. All of the content inside the conference is going to be recorded and provided to you within 72 hours on the conference platform. Kelly asks, is your child trafficking experience an abortion? Is there a similar thing happening? Absolutely. So, Kelly, what is really interesting to me in terms of my experience working in the trafficking industry is that the woman is the same woman at the root. And some people might be challenged by that. These are very similar women that just have a different symptom. And so what I like to say in my clinical world is that we all have roots to our behavior. It just gets exhibited in different symptoms: domestic violence, sex trafficking, substance abuse, divorce, abortion. And so at the root of these women, they are very, very similar women and with similar backgrounds and vulnerabilities. All right. Teddy says, is it possible to water down negative impact of abortion, such as physical harm to babies during abortion? I like your presentation and agree with you, but has there been some evaluation of possibly watering down the negative impact? Teddy, I'd love to understand your question a little bit more. If you could go a little bit deeper in helping me understand. It sounds like maybe you still would like to provide the impact of abortion, but you want some more experience with, but there's been some evaluation. Help me understand your question a little bit more. Let's see if there's any other question. Mary said, when? I don't know what that means, Mary. Explain why not to push a single program and give options. It's absolutely vital that we meet clients right where they're at. Jonah Berger said it earlier. We've got to create common ground with our clients, and we've got to meet them where they're at. And I would just love to take you on a journey. We just recently completed our second Keys to Hope and Healing group. And our Keys to Hope and Healing group launched 3 months ago. And in our first group, we had 8 women under the age of 30 that were within a year of their abortion experience. And it was absolutely imperative that they had a non-faith forward approach. But can I tell you that all women have stayed connected with support after abortion? They've moved into a second group, into greater relationships. And you can see the Lord threading healing and relationships in with them. And so we don't want to push a single program for them. We want them to choose so that they can stay engaged. And that's what happens at the end of every group, at the end of every conversation. We enlist their feedback so that they can be empowered to continue on their healing journey. And isn't that what we want? For a man or woman who lacks identity and purpose and value, for them to feel valued and purpose filled is something they've maybe never ever felt in their life. And it feels good. For those of you who know your purpose and identity and have value, you know how to make really healthy decisions and confident decisions. Well, that's not the case with the men and women that we serve. And so for them to feel that for maybe the first time is very empowering. Okay. Is faith introduced to those who are experiencing support after abortion at any time during the healing experience? Catherine, that is a great question. We follow the lead of our men and women who've experienced abortion. And oftentimes that does result in an opportunity to share about Christ and his healing power. And so like what I'm watching with the Keys to Hope and Healing group, our women entered into Unraveled Roots. It's another curriculum, like I shared earlier, that we've provided, which does talk about Christ and how other people inside were inspired by their relationship with God. And so we're finding that, and then you have women in the group who do know the Lord and share their experience in healing through their relationship with God. And so it's been really powerful to see even the peer connection and influence. I got the resource books in the mail, and I'm very excited to hear about your training. That's awesome. Okay, I'll give you about 30 seconds to write any more questions. So I got some more. Yes, in the past, AA was Christ-based, but has wandered from Christ, which resulted in Celebrate Recovery, which is Christ-based. I see what you're saying, Teddy. So Teddy's just saying, usually AA, it started out as surrendering to the Lord, and now it's surrendering to a higher power. And so there's been a branch off of a more church-based ministry called Celebrate Recovery for people who've experienced substance abuse. And Teddy, what that aligns with really is options, right? And so now it's not just AA as an alcoholic recovery program. Now you can go to Celebrate Recovery. So maybe AA is a starting point for somebody who then graduates AA starts and then you graduate into Celebrate Recovery. So that's exactly the model that we believe works at Support After Abortion. And we've seen anecdotally and through consumer research how powerful it is to have different options. And Support After Abortion isn't the end all be all. There's 200 amazing programs in our country offering abortion healing. And so we're partnered with them along with about 1,800 other ministries across the nation who are doing individual abortion healing. And so that's where we get to partner and say, what kind of program are you looking for? Are you looking for one that's in your community, virtual, led by a group right there, from your church, wherever that is. And so it gives them a really great place to launch from. Does non-faith-based recovery really work? Well, what we found in our industry is there wasn't ever another way to approach abortion healing. We have not had other resources to enter in. And so from my experience over the last 3 months, it has allowed us to enter into relationships with women who otherwise wouldn't have received help. These were women that said things like, abortion's socially acceptable, but nobody's talking about it. Planned Parenthood gave me a resource, but when I called the number, it was disconnected. Another woman said, I'm pro-choice, I thought, but I really didn't have any choices. And so as we develop these relationships and walk through the resource with them, at about week 4 inside the resource, they realized, one of the women said, I now know it's okay to call it a baby and call it my baby. That to me is huge in terms of what we are trying to accomplish in the abortion healing movement. For a woman to be awakened to maybe the lies that she's believed or the unknown things that she's experienced from the messaging of the culture, and realize that that was a baby growing in her and that is her baby. And for some, they believe their baby's in heaven. We really believe that that woman won't walk back into an abortion clinic now that she's realized the pain and what she's done. And then it continues to perpetuate a healing journey. Every woman, like I said, that we've walked with says, I don't want to stop. I want to keep healing. And so it keeps the door open to conversations and continued growth. These are great questions. When a woman comes out of the clinic after having an abortion, do you open a healing conversation? Yes. Do you give literature? Yes. If you are a sidewalk advocate, you're going to hear from Lauren Mazuka tomorrow from Sidewalk Advocates for Life. Musique, I'm sorry. She will talk about this. We resource all of the sidewalk advocates and we will resource you with print material, but we absolutely believe it's imperative to get this resource in their hand. Women, because of chemical abortion, medical abortion, abortion pill, whatever you call it, you're going to hear more about it next from Heartbeat and from Krista Brown, their medical director. She's going to share with you how chemical abortion has really shifted the culture and how women are going back and all alone are experiencing abortion. And suddenly what happens is this awakening to realizing what they've really done. And so they're reaching out for help much sooner and much quicker. So it is very imperative. We've been challenged by some people, some of maybe the old narrative. Why would you put a sign about support after abortion out in front of abortion clinic? Well, because it matters. And I hope that you heard that today, that 50% of the women that are experiencing abortion will have another one. And so what if after that first abortion, we can get healing into her hands and in her heart? Things are going to be different. She's going to choose different relationships, a different journey, and the risk factors become less. Martha, you are an article in Public Health Journal by a pro-abortion author quoted abortion counselor saying how often women come into the clinic crying, sobbing, I don't want to kill my baby, but I don't know what else to do. I have to do this. Oh, that's so common. Thank you for sharing that, Martha. If you could read those, those would be really helpful. That's so powerful. And that's what we hear from a lot of the women who've experienced abortion, who share their testimonies with us, is that experience inside the abortion clinic is almost just as traumatic as the experience of making the decision. Let's see. Oh, Kelly, her abortion experience started at Celebrate Recovery. Kelly, that is a great example, right? Healing for all of us starts in different places. And that just brings up a great point about how we have to be very open to this idea that we don't have to start with the abortion experience. We could start with a woman's sexual abuse. We could start with her deteriorating relationship. We could start with substance abuse. And so you would hear from Karen Barbito, our program director. She tells you how miffed and disappointed she is. For 10 years, she walked through recovery and not one time was she ever asked about her abortion experience? Was she ever evaluated for her abortion experience? It wasn't until she entered into the pregnancy center movement that she began to notice that her abortion had impacted her life in all the ways. And she'll tell you that's when she started really examining her own healing and finding the freedom. Yeah, that's great. And so that just reiterates that it's not a one and done. We don't just stop healing, and abortion healing is not a one and done. As I mentioned, because there is so much trauma in the hearts and minds of these women and men, it takes time and it takes a journey and it takes relationships and people that are willing to walk alongside of them. I'm still in relationship with a 15-year-old teen mom. She just turned 25. We've been in relationship for 10 years. Her life hasn't always looked beautiful, but there's something different about her than there was when she was 15. She didn't have a mom. Her dad died when she was very young. And so it's important as the pro-life movement that we embrace that it is powerful that we represent healthy relationships. We represent a place for people to come because it isn't a one and done. And we are triggered by different experiences all the time. That is how our brain works. You'll hear tomorrow from Greg Hassick, but think of the experiences when you can recall different scents from different moments of your life and what those scents represent. Abortion just doesn't go away. It just doesn't, a healing opportunity provides a space to find freedom and not be taunted and haunted by it all the time, but it doesn't mean it goes away. And so it's absolutely imperative that we continue to show up and help people, but also shift our programs. Because if we're only providing one abortion healing program, one kind, one size, one time of day, well, then we're not offering an opportunity for people to experience abortion healing, or like Kelly said, a celebrate recovery. Maybe a woman needs, like I said earlier, to talk about her relationship. So she needs a codependency group or a sexual healing group. All, by the way, which we are doing at Support After Abortion to help guide you to be able to do that, because we see that these are common threads in the lives of those who've experienced abortion. All right, let's see. Today, thank you for the conversation. Thank you for that affirming word. Okay, so I said this last time and got a ton of questions. I'll give you about 30 more seconds. I'm going to make sure that we give time for Krista Brown's presentation to get ready. If there's any other questions or comments, I've been really encouraged by your comments and your openness. And I hope to see you inside of our website and the rest of the conference. Okay, that looks like everyone. Have a very blessed rest of your day. And thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure and honor.